Whew, we have made it to Friday, Jarryd. How are you doing?
It's great. It's Friday's always good.
Yeah, definitely. And Friday, and I hear that you are going out of town, so that's even better.
Yes, for gymnastics.
Yeah,
Not for me, but
yeah.
for my 8-year-old does gymnastics up in King where we're from, and they have a gymnastics meet in Pigeon Forge this weekend, and so we're going to be spending the weekend there at the little convention center they have there, and then we'll have some time to ourselves to kind of sightsee and such. But that's they've been doing that for the past 3 years, so once a year we go visit. So
Very cool, very
yeah,
cool. That sounds like tiring but fun. I mean, at
yeah,
least you get to go out of town, and it's kind of like, a trip.
yeah.
Yeah, but you got some stuff to do. But that sounds super fun.
Yep.
This Carrie Carrico with Carrie Carrico Real Estate, and I'm here with Jarryd Moxley from Farm Bureau. And today we are going to chat all about insurance on unique homes, like container homes, tiny homes, barndominiums, everything single wides. People ask me about single wides all the time. About insurance. And so I have Jarryd on here so we can kind of jump into all these unique homes and how like you can insure them, because everyone wants to live in them, but how do you make it, feasible to insure them? And how does that happen? And how does that work? And what does it look like? So, Jarryd, how are you seeing more of these kind of homes?
Yeah, so home insurance in general over the
Hmm.
past, like I would say 2 years,
Yeah,
has really changed just the landscape of it in general has changed
yeah.
because companies, from an insurance perspective, are pulling out. A lot of
Oh,
companies are pulling out completely because homeowners insurance is a higher risk for every insurance company.
yeah,
And so it's really, property by property. It really just depends on how you insure it and if you can insure it and what
yeah,
details matter. And so I know we're going to get into some of those specific examples today. And so
yeah.
really a case by case scenario, really. So
Wow. Okay. Well, that's unique. I didn't realize it was that case by case.
can be,
Um,
yeah.
so what is the main difference between insuring a traditional home and like a unique home? Is there any main differences that you can think
Yeah,
of?
so I would say when you say unique home, you're kind of
Yeah,
going back to what you started off with
yeah,
double wides, single wides, tiny homes,
yeah,
container homes, barndominiums. I know we've mentioned that before. So all of those are insured completely different depending on the way it's built, really.
mhm.
So barndominiums, I'll just start there.
Yeah.
Barndominiums are we view them as just a traditional home.
Oh,
And
really?
so,
Hmm.
yep, we will insure them just like anyone that has a stick-built home, brick, vinyl, whatever.
Mhm.
It's those typically barndominiums are going to have that metal, aluminum siding. Same thing
Yeah,
with a roof, but we'll insure it just like a regular stick-built home under a normal homeowner's policy. Nothing special that gets done to the policy or anything that needs to be done different. The rates aren't any different for them either. Just obviously depends on the age of the home, just like a regular home would be.
mhm.
And then the roof, even though it's a metal roof, those are considered to be a better quality,
Yeah.
but if it's an older one, then it matters then too. So, but barndominiums are, and even so container homes kind of fall in that same category.
Hmm.
And like I told you earlier, I've never done a container home.
Yeah,
There's not many out there,
yeah,
but I do know that we can insure those because they're kind of the same structure as maybe, or as the same material of like maybe a barndominium or something. It's a
yeah,
higher quality, it's the steel or the metal or the
yeah,
aluminum. And so, as long as they've got them put together or whether it's one or they're stacked or however it
yeah,
is, as long as they've got, plumbing and HVAC and all pretty much everything like a normal home would have, then we'll insure it the same exact way, just like a normal home. So nothing special there, which is nice for people that are into that.
yeah.
And then when it comes to your other stuff, as far as, double wides, single wides, tiny
Mhm.
homes, stuff like that, that's really now where you get into a case by case situation
Okay.
because those are all considered higher risk.
Okay.
Yep. And as far as insurance, the insurance is going to be more expensive than
Okay.
your typical stick built home.
Hmm.
But it also matters on how old it is.
Hmm.
It matters how it is, if it's a tiny home, if it's got
Hmm.
wheels on it still, if the
Yeah.
wheels are removed, if it's, there's tiny homes that aren't built on trailers. They're
Yeah.
just a small home.
Hmm.
If it's just a small home, then it's insured just like a regular home.
Hmm.
But if the wheels are still on it, then that matters. There's all kinds of different things that play into, and you really got to be more detailed when it comes to getting a policy for something like that, just because the insurance companies consider them higher risk. And we've just got to know every little detail about the home, how old it is, if it's got wheels on it, if it's plumbed, if it's, I mean, pretty much everything goes into insuring one of those. And a
Mhm.
lot of times we have to have prior approval before actually issuing that policy.
Hmm. Okay, well, that's interesting. So when I've sold single wides, those seem to be more difficult to insure than like a double wide, a traditional double wide. Is that true?
It is, yeah. So a double wide, if it's older, that can still be difficult to insure.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of companies aren't going to want to touch it if it's over, if it's a 40, 50, 60-year-old double wide and
Yeah.
it's got to really be updated and everything inside with, especially the roof and then the plumbing, the electrical, all that stuff's going to need to be updated, HVAC. Now a single wide is a higher risk than a double wide when it
Yeah.
from an insurance perspective. And so yeah, the age is the big kicker on any single wide or
Hmm.
double wide.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm working with some clients right now that are putting up a brand new single wide. No problem to insure it. It's brand new. It's considered a lower risk, obviously, right off the bat because
Yeah.
it's new. There won't be as many problems that can happen. It's not your standard homeowner's policy because it is a mobile home, so
Yeah.
it goes to a mobile home policy. But no issues insuring something that, especially that's brand new or within the first 10 years of its life. So but
Yeah.
it's pretty easy then. The trick is the older ones.
Okay, that makes sense. So now I've also heard like from lenders that I've worked with that said that a double wide or a single wide that's been like was in one location and then moved to another location that it's like almost impossible to insure that. Is that true or
Yeah.
is that like a
So
myth?
every insurance company is also different. So
Okay.
some insurance companies will ask more questions than other insurance companies, and so it to us it I'm not asking if it has been moved and
Uh-huh.
if it's been reset. I'm really just going to go off of what is the age of this mobile home, whether it's been moved or not.
Yeah.
Does it still have the wheels on it, especially the single wides,
Yeah.
and or does it have a permanent foundation, and what is it updated?
Yeah.
We're going to go over those same type things again, whether it's been moved or not. And it really just matters when it comes to that. It's hard. You're not many companies are going to give replacement cost coverage on an old double wide. I mean, or an
Yeah.
old single wide, I mean, you
Yeah.
know?
I could see that. It'd be almost impossible. I mean, yeah. I mean, just selling them, I mean, we can
Mhm.
get comps for them, but even that, like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
that
They're
completely.
difficult. They're definitely
They're
difficult.
very
And then
difficult.
double wides are not as difficult as a single
Yeah.
wide. But if they're over a certain age and not updated, now it becomes a problem as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I can totally see that because I mean, it's tough for us to sell them because you just can't get the financing for them
Right.
either.
That's right.
So it's a struggle either way. So I have a quick question back to container homes. So I've, doing research on container homes. Which is funny because you were like, "Oh yeah, no, you can insure them," and you said it's a better quality because of the steel. I've actually heard that it deteriorates because it rusts and so on and so on. But you guys don't consider that an issue, or
No, we that's not an
oh,
issue for us.
that's
I mean
great.
that we've ever well, and the thing is we just don't have many of them. Like
Yeah,
I said, I've never even insured one. And so I've not even quoted insuring one. So that would be something that if that it's very niche, like you said earlier.
yeah, it's very nice.
Very, very, very
Yeah,
uncommon.
yeah,
But there's a lot of times we run into things. So that's one of those things. It would kind of be case by case scenario again.
yeah,
Like, how old is this container that you're putting out there?
yeah,
Is it sitting on a pad or is it sitting on, does it have a
yeah,
foundation? How is the structure? So it really depends on the quality of it. And what we do is, me as the agent, I will go out and do field underwriting, what we call. I'll go out and I'll look at the property and take pictures and inspect and make sure it looks to be set up like we would want it to be to insure
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear this though, because I mean, looking at containers, I mean, homes, I mean, they're pretty cool
Yeah,
and
they're neat.
they're really cool. And so, thinking about, oh, well, you could put one here, here, and like different locations,
Mhm.
and just make it such a unique property. So I'm glad to hear that you can actually insure them and
Yeah.
very similar. And
Well,
all,
another thing I will
yeah,
mention real quick
yeah,
is it depends on who's living in it.
yeah,
So, how you're also going to insure it. And that applies to just regular homeowners or how you're insuring a home in general, anyways. But especially when you come to these higher risk homes like we're talking about right
Yeah.
now, if it's tenant occupied, it's going to be much harder to get a policy than it would be if it was owner occupied. So
Hmm.
that's different as well.
Okay. And so tenant occupied would also be, would you consider that like a short-term rental, like an
Yeah.
Airbnb?
Hmm.
So that, okay, or midterm. So both of those. So it'd be a higher insurance then.
Yeah, right.
That's a big question that people have all the time,
Yeah.
about insuring, investment homes when
Yep.
we help them buy investment homes. So that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Well, it's really cool that a barndominium is just considered the same as a house. Because I remember when modulars were considered a little different insuring as
Yep.
well, but those are
They're
now,
not now. Yeah.
no. I
And-
mean, we don't even we comp them out just, generally as a stick built home as well.
Right.
So
Because it's just a
it is.
simple off-site, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but like I said earlier, every insurance company is completely different. And I think Farm Bureau is more flexible when it
Yeah.
comes to understanding those homes and how they're built and being able to
Yeah.
insure them as your typical homeowner's policy.
Well, that's really exciting. I think
Yep.
it's super exciting. And also, I didn't think about tiny homes like the differences because, basically one on wheels is no different than a mobile home. Um,
Right.
or a camper or something. So
Yep. Exactly
unless
right.
so it'd
Yep.
be kind of totally different insurance. So, now, when we're talking about insurance for all these houses, or the location of the home, urban versus rural, in flood zones, fi wildfire risk, how does this impact, insurance? Because I mean, a lot of these homes, more unique homes, are going to be in areas that might have higher,
Right.
risks.
So your typical homeowner's policy is not going to cover
Hmm.
flood, right?
Yeah,
So, you heard about all the people in Western North Carolina. A lot of those people
yeah,
didn't have flood insurance. It's
yeah,
a completely separate piece of coverage that most people don't think that they need to have if they're not in a flood zone. But even if you are in a flood zone, and you know this, if you're in a flood
yeah,
zone and you have financed your home, you're going to be required to carry that flood insurance. And
yeah,
it, depending on the flood zone that it is in, whatever rating that is, depends on the price, and how likely that area is to flood. So
yeah,
that changes the price as well. But, I've also got clients that aren't in what you would label a flood zone that still want flood insurance, especially after what's happened recently. And their policies aren't as expensive because they're not in a high risk area, but they still just want to be protected. Um, as far as high risk wildfire areas,
yeah.
that's nothing that we take into account at all.
Yeah.
Because I mean that could really happen anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anywhere. And so anyway, so that doesn't really play a factor in. But one thing is talking about location. What
Yeah.
matters is you know, location in regards to how far from a fire department you are, how far from fire
Hmm.
hydrants you are.
Okay.
So every home you can put an address in. Every insurance company can put an address in, and each location has a fire rating.
Hmm.
So some homes have a higher fire rating. Like if you're in the middle of Charlotte, you've got a great fire rating because you're just going to have access to all the fire departments that are around there, and those fire departments have a lot of resources, right? And there's
Yeah.
going to be fire hydrants close by. Whereas someone up in the mountains of, Western North Carolina, there may not be a fire department for 10 or 12, 15 miles or something like that. And there's not
Yeah.
going to be any fire hydrants. So their fire rating is going to be much higher, which in turn makes their insurance much higher due to that because the way they look at it is they rate those fire departments based off of,
Hmm.
how can they stop damage to the house quicker than another fire department that's maybe not as has as many resources or something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that makes a big difference.
That makes a huge difference. I was just thinking about like all the unique homes across the country. Some of them I've stayed at. I can imagine that the insurance is so much more
Yeah.
expensive. Like, so if you're in the middle of like the desert,
Hmm.
out in Arizona or Nevada, I mean, you may not have a fire department for 50 miles or 100
Right.
miles. So I
Yep.
can imagine. I mean, that insurance would probably be a lot higher.
I'm sure. And then,
Um,
like insurance in Florida,
yeah.
just where they're in the year. So that's kind of another location that we haven't really mentioned. We mentioned
Yeah.
flooding and fire risk, but like hurricanes,
Hurricanes.
the
Yeah.
coast, everyone's home here in North Carolina that's down at the coast is most people have to carry multiple policies
Yeah.
to cover everything that they want. Sometimes two or three different policies to cover all the risks that they have versus we don't really have here. And so you pay much higher insurance rates there.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what like the average? Because like I had heard in Florida, what it's gone up to. Have you heard it recently? Because
No, I don't know.
okay,
Every once in a while, I have someone that's moving here.
yeah,
And not just, I mean, I know we're talking about homes, but car
yeah,
insurance, everything is more expensive down there.
yeah,
And I think it's even more like in California and things
yeah,
like that. But I know I'll have clients move up here from Florida, and they're like, wouldn't imagine what our homeowners insurance is down there and what our auto insurance is down there. So they're like super surprised when they come up here and their insurance rates are cut in half, most
yeah,
likely, you know?
yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, the last rate I heard, it seemed high, but it didn't seem as high as I thought it would be. So, but yeah, I bet you everything is higher. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure of it, definitely. So, I think we kind of went back to that. How much does we talked about that before, but we'll talk about this question again. How much does the material of the home make a difference in insurance when you're insuring it? Like because you've got barndominiums, you've got tiny homes, you've got container homes. Gosh, you've got all different unique types of
Right.
homes. Does the material really play a difference in, the cost of insurance?
It's not a huge difference.
Oh,
It really
okay.
isn't. Yeah, I mean, it's we ask and or look at it and see what it is, and we label that. And when it comes to those special homes, there's not
Yeah.
going to be a huge difference in materials from type to type. So
Yeah.
most tiny homes, you're not going to have a brick built tiny home,
Yeah.
And so, but you
Yeah.
may have siding where it's just stick built, and then you may have the side. Some people may put metal on their
Yeah.
tiny home.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to case by case scenario, it just
Yeah.
depends on is that tiny home have wheels or is it permanently located? Is it on a permanent foundation? And then, but yeah, so if it's a metal siding home or if it's that kind of general, I know we're talking about specific homes and unique
Yeah.
homes, but a brick home is cheaper insurance than well, depends as far as if it was the same amount of coverage, a brick built home is cheaper than a stick built home because it's less likely the bricks aren't going to burn down,
Yeah.
So it's more sturdy type home.
Hmm.
But in general, when it comes to those unique homes with the barndominiums and the container homes, they're a metal structure,
Yeah.
so that's fireproof almost. So that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that definitely would help. So I had just had a question. Being from like I'm from California and we have a lot of stucco homes. Does
Right.
that make a difference? I mean, when you're getting insurance, because you don't see a ton of stucco homes on like in North
Around
Carolina.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't, but on the West Coast, I mean, like they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
That,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's I would think I'm not 100% sure to be honest with you
Yeah.
because I mean just me thinking about it I've never done a specific we've never labeled one that's specifically stucco. I think it's just labeled frame built.
Oh,
It
okay.
was like if it had siding or something like that on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so we have classification. We have frame built, we have metal siding, and we also or metal and we have masonry.
Oh,
So I don't
okay.
know if stucco would fall under masonry maybe.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Yeah, it does. I bet
Yeah.
you it does. Yeah, for sure,
Probably.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm assuming vinyl. I mean, that could. I bet you your insurance might be higher. I mean, I would assume, right, on vinyl
Yeah. Oh
homes.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely makes
But it's
sense.
not a huge difference. Like
Hmm.
it's never gonna sway somebody from buying a house or not buying a house
Yeah.
because they've got vinyl or stucco or brick, it
Yeah.
may make $100 difference on the whole policy for the year. So it's usually not a huge difference.
Yeah, but that makes sense. So, I mean, it is interesting to know that the siding that your home has could
Yep.
possibly, change your insurance costs. So that's a really interesting, an interesting fact. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And
Um,
going back to the fire department and stuff, like, a lot of people don't realize that either.
that's
They
crazy. I didn't
find
know
a
that.
house and it can be just my home where I live. We
Yeah.
live in well, it actually just got an improved rating. So up until about 3 or 4 months ago, we lived in the second worst fire district you could possibly live in.
Oh,
So
wow.
our home insurance was $300 or $400 more than if we had built our house in the city. And so just because of the location, now it did just improve. We didn't get an approved rating all the way down to like if you lived in the city, but the fire department, they review the fire departments and see if their resources have improved or whatever. And ours has. And so our homeowners insurance actually just dropped because of that. But a lot of people, I've had a lot of clients calling me and saying, "Hey, why did I just get a check? Because of saying I got a refund on my homeowner's insurance? Well, it's because your fire department close to your home is now rated better. But a lot of people don't realize that that even matters.
Wow. Yeah, that's super interesting. I was just thinking as you were saying that, like I've got two. Like I think one is a mile and a half and one is probably less than a mile away.
Yep.
So, I mean, but that makes sense because my homeowner insurance is pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh,
and so I will kind of go back to that. So the I have the second worst fire rating you can have, and we
yeah.
had a fire department a mile from our house. So
Wow.
that it matters as far as how far you are, but it
Yeah.
matters what fire station is close to you. So it was a volunteer fire station is near
Oh,
me, you know,
okay.
so it's totally different. They don't have the resources that even though there's a fire station really close to my house, it was still poorly rated because of the resources that that specific fire department had. So that matters too.
That's crazy. I had
I
no
know.
idea. Because I know like when you're insuring homes now, like smart homes, like all the different, securities, I mean, all like a security system, that
Yeah.
also changes your rating, correct?
Oh
Or am
yeah, 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 and it's
okay.
the same thing. It's not,
Okay.
you don't get $300 off, but you do
Yeah.
get a little discount and improved
Yeah.
rating because insurance companies feel like it will help prevent more damage,
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. But yeah,
Okay.
you do get one, and I tell clients all the time, if you get a monitored alarm system put in with fire and burglar, then just let me know, send us a certificate, and we'll apply the discounts for you.
That's interesting. That's
Yep,
totally interesting. I'll have to definitely let my buyers and sellers know that because,
yep,
I knew that there was a difference, but I didn't know like that you could just send in the certificate.
yep,
And yeah, okay, that's very interesting.
yep.
We're gonna have to you'll have to reach out to my sister because
Ah,
she just got that.
did she get
So
one? Good.
she
Yeah, I'll have
did.
to get her
Yeah,
price
yeah.
down.
Yeah, so I'll have her reach out to you.
Okay.
That's super interesting. And she needs the discount, so that'd be good.
Right.
So when we're talking about like, basic protection, what else do you recommend a homeowner? Because of all the different crazy catastrophes that have happened those last couple of years
Right.
and the hurricanes and all the stuff, what do you recommend? Because we didn't talk about that last time
Mhm.
when we chatted, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I mean, it's all here's what I do as an insurance agent. I
Yeah,
can I can give clients information and I try to tell them what I would recommend. And then at the end of the day, if it's any of the extra coverage as far as flood or earthquake or anything like that, if it's not required by their lender, it's really personal preference on their part if they want to add it or not. And most people look at it based off of what it's going to cost them, you
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
obviously if someone knew that their house was going to be flooded, then they would have purchased flood insurance. But it's not
yeah,
something that most people are at a high risk for. So most people don't have it. But I try to let as many clients as I know, like, look, flood is not covered on your typical homeowner's policy. That's
yeah,
a separate coverage you would need, but it's also a separate cost.
yeah,
And then kind of some other things, and I know we'll get into this in a little bit, but there are other little endorsements and add-ons and the way
yeah,
I structure my clients' policies that I always try to recommend them building their policies that way instead of just throwing it in there and getting an insurance policy, and not
yeah.
really catering it to kind of what you have.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you kind of recommend? I mean, we can just jump into that now if you want.
Yep. So
Yeah,
there's so earthquakes typically not covered on a homeowner's policy. As far as Farm Bureau goes, there's endorsements that you can add to your policy to cover that. Again, additional charge.
yeah,
But I go over the flood coverage as well.
yeah,
And then I give every one of my clients $1 million of personal liability coverage.
yeah,
I don't typically see that when clients are coming to me looking for quotes from their current provider to maybe
yeah,
switch. Usually it's 100, 300,000, something like that. But
yeah,
um, I feel like people in general in today's time have a larger exposure when it comes to personal liability at their homes because of ordering Amazon and
yeah,
I mean you name it and delivery people coming onto your property. That's a higher risk. I mean, 20 years ago you didn't have people coming on and off their properties like they do now. I think we have
yeah,
a delivery guy at our house every day right now.
yeah,
Especially during the holiday seasons, I mean, it's
yeah,
multiple times a day for a lot of people that are
yeah,
ordering all their Christmas gifts online or just stuff in general. People are having to go groceries delivered now. So there's
yeah.
a lot more exposure that happens on your property than it used to be. And that's where to increase your personal liability insurance to $1 million, which is the max for us and most companies on a homeowner's policy, it's really just a few dollars.
Oh,
Like
really? I didn't know
maybe
that.
10 or $12 a year
Mhm.
goes from $300,000 of liability to $1 million. And for the money, it's a no-brainer, is what I tell my clients. And so
Yeah.
it's a very small price difference for what could be a very large, difference in if there was to be a claim or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so I
definitely.
try to go over that, and then your typical homeowners policies don't they have limits on higher value items, which a lot of people don't realize that either. So
Hmm.
jewelry, firearms, if you've got your own business and you have equipment that you run a business with, that stuff is not typically covered under your personal property, or it has limits within
Oh,
it
okay.
on your
Uh-huh.
personal property coverage for your homeowner. So try to go over things like that with clients just to make sure they don't just think that everything in their house is fully covered because
Yeah.
they have this much personal property coverage. There can be limits on those items. So we try to address those if they need separate coverage for stuff like that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Now with kind of like on the same kind of topic, are there any special considerations for homeowners that they should be aware of when they're filing a claim on all this property that you're talking about if they have it insured like this? Is there any different?
You mean like if they insure some of this special property
Yeah.
separately?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
separately or just with the claim. Like, is there anything they should consider like when they're filing a claim? I mean, should they? I mean, like, because if you have this much insurance, I could see that people would file more claims. Is that a problem?
I honestly don't see more claims filed for it.
Oh, okay.
And so it's but deductibles matter too,
Yeah.
and tell a lot of people. One reason I try to tell my clients, so you've probably seen where clients can have their jewelry and stuff like that insured
Yeah.
as part of their homeowners,
Yeah.
right? Well, we can do that as well. We can also insure them on a separate policy.
Oh,
The
okay.
price is no different for us. And the reason I don't like to do them on the homeowners, and me personally as an agent like to do them on a separate policy, is if you can avoid homeowners claims, avoid homeowners claims. And
Yes.
so if you have your jewelry attached to your homeowners policy and you have a jewelry claim, well, you have a homeowners claim.
Yeah.
Whereas if now it's over here, you have a personal property claim, we call them an inland marine policy. You have this policy claim and you have no claims on your homeowners. So I always recommend to split those up just in case you do have a claim. You can avoid homeowners claims because insurance companies, it,
Yeah.
multiple claims, multiple claims, multiple claims that happen and depend on the time span of that happening,
Yeah.
they're probably not going to keep you around. And so
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
prevent a homeowner's claim, prevent it.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually I was just going to ask you. I was like, well, I could see that could be a problem and like what happens, if
Yep.
you they get rid of you. So
Yeah,
that totally makes sense.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see that. So one question we're going to kind of jump back to tiny homes or like the more unique homes or barndominiums or whatever that kind of thing. Is there any like unique claims that you've seen on those? Because I know you said you've never done a container, but is there like something common that you see or on single wides or double wides that is just common on a unique home?
No, I would not really. I don't think
Oh,
it's
okay.
any different than there's not any specific claims that pop out to me that
Yeah.
are more common in those homes than just a regular stick built home.
Yeah.
But to me, I know that somewhere, in the past, these insurance companies did all these studies,
Yeah.
right? What homes and what types of homes are causing us larger losses, right? And so they've obviously came out with that those single wides, double wides, those tiny homes, things like that, they do consider a higher risk. And so that's why they charge more premium for them. But like back to the barndominium and the container homes,
Yeah.
more so the barndominium, we're viewing it as a regular home and we're able to put it on a homeowner's policy because us as Farm Bureau, we're not seeing that barndominium as a higher risk than any other home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that fact too because I love those. They're so cool.
yeah.
So it's so neat that you guys are, viewing them as just a regular,
Yep.
home. So that's pretty cool. Do you have any advice that you would give to somebody that is thinking about, buying one of these unique homes and living in it when they go to get insurance?
Right. Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
the age of the home, the
Hmm.
big one right now, whether it's a special home or not, the
Yeah.
roof, right? How
Yeah.
old is the roof? If the tiny home or the special home that you're buying is has a little age on it, the roof needs to be updated, the plumbing, electrical, HVAC, you need to have all of that stuff in place and it
Yeah.
needs to be up to date. As long as that's the case, then most of the time there's no problems when it comes to insuring it. Another big one is get inspections done. Like I know that you as a realtor have that done, but
Yep.
it can uncover so many things. And if you're making such a big investment, that's something you want to know if there are problems with your home. So, and then me as an insurance agent, I love that the inspections are done because that helps us, prevent claims from happening if there's a problem with the home that's not disclosed up front or that the inspector can uncover or something like that. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And one question is just kind of like off the fly. I was thinking about it as you were talking. If somebody was thinking about buying like a unique home, do you feel like they should come to you first before they go and purchase one just to
yeah.
get an idea of like what the insurance would be, what should they look for, and that kind
Yeah.
of thing?
Yeah, so if it matters to the client,
Yeah,
there's some people that they're going to buy the house either way,
yeah,
but if you need to know that this is going to fit your budget and you need to know what the insurance is, and I always recommend getting quotes on the front end, maybe even before you go under contract,
yeah,
kind of what all things are going to look like. What do the taxes look like also? Just
yeah,
what is all that going to look like if you were to buy the property? And I'm happy to do quotes for clients that are interested in homes. It doesn't take long for me,
yeah.
and I'm able to go ahead and provide that quote to them up front so they know what they're looking at.
Yeah. And I was thinking about too with investors. I think that's like the big thing. I would definitely feel like it would be more, it'd be more advantageous to have an
Yep.
investor reach out to you because, some investors are like, I'm going to put, 6 container homes on this, what does this look like,
Yep.
on this
And
lot?
it may not be what they think in their mind.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it matters
Yeah.
especially to investors that
Yeah.
are doing this as a business,
Yeah.
and that's going to cut away from their total profit if it's more than kind of what they plan. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely. And especially like what you were saying, like fire departments, location, floods. I mean, like I can see that now, like looking at that because I mean, there's really cool like Airbnbs and midterms that are like all over the country in these
yeah,
cool places. But now I'm like thinking, I wonder what the insurance is on that. Because
yeah,
yeah, with those crazy unique places, hopefully, they're probably making enough money for it. But I'm
yeah.
questioning that. Just
Yeah.
wondering about it now.
Well, the more unique the place is,
Yeah.
and the more off the grid the place is, the more expensive it's going to be for you to rent. And so
Yeah.
they make that up there probably.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, it is definitely more expensive. Yeah, because I've looked at some of the tiny homes and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's
I know.
$500 a night.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like, up on a cliff in the middle of
Yep. Exactly.
nowhere or in the middle of like I've seen a few, they're pretty cool in the middle of Death Valley. There's like
Yeah.
tiny home just like sitting out there.
Yeah.
Or a like, container home or whatever. So
Some of
that's
those people
cool.
might not even be able to get insurance at all, anyways.
Yeah,
There may be some instances where insurance companies aren't going to give it to you.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
just take that risk.
Yeah, no, definitely. I could see that too. Like, does it make sense? I mean, are you going to make up more in profit? And I mean, how much would it cost to just replace it
Yep.
rather
Right.
than insuring it? So yeah, I could definitely see that too. And I've heard that. I've heard that some people in Florida have just like not got insurance on
Yep.
single wides because of that exact. Have you
Oh,
heard?
and they're doing that same thing around here. I mean,
Oh,
there's definitely investors around here that have single wides that maybe be older. They might be older, and you can still get so even if it's an older property that is a single wide or a double wide,
yeah,
you can typically get insurance. But the policy is just not as good. You know, like as
yeah,
long as there's not a loan or it's not financed, you can usually
yeah,
get a basic policy for it, and it's usually really cheap. But I have many clients that don't even have those older single wides insured because it's not worth to them
yeah,
it might be worth $5,000 or
yeah.
$10,000. So they're not going to pay insurance on it when it's just not worth as much.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So, I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but do you feel like there's any like common misconceptions about insuring a unique home or pretty much is there anything that people I mean, I thought that they were uninsurable or very difficult to insure.
Right.
That was kind of my misconception. So I'm pretty excited that they're not. But anything else that we've missed or I've missed?
Um, Not that I know of. I just
Yeah.
think that kind of going back to what we just talked about a second ago,
Yeah.
get your info on the front end
Yeah.
because it's case by case. If you're looking at a property, reach out to your insurance agent or me or whoever, and
Yeah.
here's the property we're looking at. Is this going to be hard to insure? Are we going to have any problems with the way the property is? And if I need to go look at it on the front end, I can do that. Typically, there's pictures online and stuff like that helps, but
Yeah.
do your legwork before you get too deep into it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I could definitely see that. And it's funny because I mean, I wanted to put some container homes, some different locations, and now I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna probably end up having to ask you about the locations and what I'm thinking about doing just to find that out to see if it
Yeah,
makes sense. So for
right.
sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely, because I've got some ideas.
Mhm.
So, kind of like one other question I have, and it's kind of like one of my last questions, but are there any, trends that you're seeing or future trends or things that you're seeing in the industry that's kind of, changing the insurance industry? And where do you feel like those are going if there is?
I'm going to go right back to what we've already talked
Yeah.
about. Could you maybe can guess what it is?
Um,
Roofs.
yes. Roofs.
That is,
We talked about roofs last time.
I know
Roofs
it
are a
is.
topic.
It's
Yeah.
such a hot topic right
Yeah.
now, and
Yeah.
it's been for the last year and a half, 2 years, and
Yeah.
it still is. And so that has completely changed the insurance industry to altogether. We've changed the way we go about insuring homes. We've changed whether or not we will insure homes
Mhm.
depending on the roof, and we're not. We used to not be as strict, and every insurance company used to not be as strict
Yeah.
on the roof. I mean, we wanted to know the age, of course, but usually it wasn't a problem. But they have just been it has caused insurance companies to lose so much money over the last few years that they're cracking down on that. And so I've really seen that shift over the course of the last year for us, couple
Mhm.
years maybe as insurance in a whole, as a whole. But that's the biggest one as soon as you ask the question that comes to my mind. As far as anything else goes, I've not seen any real big shifts in the industry other than that. I mean, the since COVID, the way inflation has been over the
Yeah.
last couple of years. So I mean, everybody's wants to know why their insurance is going up or why has my policy changed or what, but it's what hasn't.
Yeah.
And so it's hard as an agent to explain to your clients that the labor to prepare your home or to repair your car
Yeah.
or the materials to replace and fix your home, everything is more expensive. So we can't just insure it for the same cost that you had it before when the materials were lower and the labor was lower. So at the end of the day, insurance is a business. I told somebody the other
Yeah.
day there used to not be insurance. There was no such thing as insurance. And so, insurance companies, if they feel like they're not able to make a profit, then they're going to crack down on certain things. And the roofs is the big one that has really changed just every company in general across the nation,
Yeah.
as far as how they're insuring and even if they are insuring. And there's some companies that have completely pulled out where they won't even offer insurance anymore. I've had numerous clients come into my office saying, I've got a letter and they've told me that I have till this date because they're no longer carrying homeowners insurance in North Carolina or homeowners insurance in general. So it's been a big change as far
Yeah.
as that goes recently. So
Yeah. Now, we're talking about roofs. Is there like, just so everyone knows, because I'm sure this is a common question that people Google, what is a age that, like how old are they,
20 years,
how many?
20.
20. So if they're
That's what
older
we're
than,
looking at.
okay, so you're looking at newer than 20 years, correct?
That's right. Yep. And
Okay.
it depends on the material of the roof as well.
Yeah.
If it's your regular standard shingle roof, if it's 20 years or less, there's no problems. Once it reaches the 20-year mark, we will choose to insure your home a little differently. You can still get insurance, but your
Mhm.
roof will be valued at a lesser amount until it's replaced.
Mhm.
The example I use when it comes to roofs is like tires on your car,
Yeah.
right? So the tires on your car are going to wear down. And insurance doesn't replace the tire on your car. The tires on your car.
Yeah.
Your roof is going to wear down. And once it reaches the end of its life, it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain your tires and your roof, right? And
Yeah.
so that's a kind of good example that just because your tires are wore down, just because your roof's wore down, doesn't mean that there's damage. It's just
Yeah.
time to replace it,
Yeah,
So that's a very good analogy when it comes to roofs. And
that's
so,
a great one.
yeah,
Yeah,
so we don't mind insuring any home, if as long as it's in good shape and the roof's updated and things
yeah,
like that. But it's just homeowners, I think, have become less and less. Um, they don't take responsibility for their home to maintain it anymore as much,
yeah,
and so it's just roofs are one of those things that have to be replaced, and it's the homeowner's responsibility. And if it's not, but if there's damage that happens to it, that's what the insurance company's for.
yeah,
And so we
yeah.
understand that as well. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it when it comes to that. That analogy always helps people kind of, okay, that makes a little more sense now.
Yeah. Now, does that change with like, I was thinking as you were talking about, does the years change with like different types of roofs, like a metal roof or a clay, tile roof? I mean, is
Yes,
it
it
still
does.
20 years or is it
No,
different?
it's not. It's kind of more a we need to see your roof and see what
Okay.
the condition it's in. We do still ask the age, like
Yeah.
especially on a metal roof, which more and more people are going to,
Yeah.
but they are going to have a longer life. But as
Yeah.
long there's different types of metal roofs as well.
Yeah.
And I'm really still kind of learning a lot more about metal roofs. I've got a buddy of mine that is a roofer, but
Oh,
depending on how the roofs are installed, whether the seams are, they call it a standing seam roof,
yeah. Uh-huh.
or if the seams are down low, the standing seams are more likely to not leak and have problems
Hmm.
versus the other, from what I've gathered. So
Yeah.
all that kind of matters as far as whether or not you're going to have damage and problems. But the metal roof, we don't require it to be the 20-year mark.
Yeah.
We understand that has a longer life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So last question that just popped up. You may or may not know because I'm just throwing this on you.
Okay.
Okay, now I hate dealing with these, not because I'm not environmental. I love that fact. I mean, it's great if you want to put solar panels on your roof,
Right.
but they're a nightmare for me to sell houses.
Mhm.
Just that's a whole topic.
Yep.
But does that affect your ability to insure the house? Does it affect the roof at all? I was just curious. Like if
Right. No. So, and then a lot these satellite dishes and
yeah,
stuff on people's roofs. Like, if you can help it, don't put them on your roof. I
yeah,
mean, because the roof is there for a reason, to keep water from getting in, and you
yeah,
drill holes in it.
yeah,
Yes, it is a higher risk for things to happen.
yeah,
And so if you can put them out in your yard on some, put something in the ground to put them out there, it's
yeah,
way better for you as a homeowner. But as far as insurance goes, we ask about them strictly for value basis.
mhm.
So, like,
Okay,
what's the value of those solar panels? How many do you have? Because we need to insure those as part of your home. So
okay.
depending on what you have and how many you have, we need to increase your coverage to make sure those are covered for you.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's kind of what we ask when it comes to solar panels, whether they are in your yard or on your roof. But it's not going to cause us not to insure your home if you have solar panels on your roof.
Okay. Now, is
Yep.
there like a rule, like, I guess it still goes back to the 20 years because, when you have how they insure the solar panels with the roof, correct? I mean,
Yeah, so it's not
okay.
with it's just part of the, so the way Farm
Okay.
Bureau insures solar panels, in a homeowner's policy, you have coverage A, coverage B, coverage
Yeah.
C. Coverage A is your dwelling, which is the whole structure of the home.
Yeah.
Coverage B is other structures away from the home, which a lot of people would think solar panels may be a coverage B because it's not part of the actual built structure of your home.
Yeah.
Coverage C is your personal property, all your contents and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Farm Bureau, we insure it as part of coverage A. So it's
Oh,
part of the actual structure of your home. And so depending on how many you have and what the value of those are, we just increase your coverage on your house to make sure
yeah.
those are in there as well.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. I just threw that on you. Sorry about that. But
No,
I
that's
was
fine. That's
curious
okay.
'cause, I mean, like I've got a new listing this week, and it has solar panels on it too.
Yeah.
I've sold quite a few this last couple of years, and
Yeah.
I hate it though because there's not as many comps around, so that the homeowner sadly doesn't get the seller doesn't get the benefit that
Yeah.
yeah, but I was just curious because one of the houses we sold, like there was a lot of questions about the roof and the solar panels and all the things. So I just kind of wanted to see if it really did make a difference and like that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
for sure. Well, excellent. Well, Jarryd, I appreciate you hopping on
Yeah.
and entertaining my crazy questions about all the unique homes and single wides and double wides because people ask me all the time when I'm
Mhm.
out with buyers and I try to answer the questions correct, but I figured I would just go to the source and
Yeah.
hear what the the real answers are. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it so much.
Of course.
And I hope you have a good weekend and enjoy Pigeon Forage and have a good time at that gymnastic tournament
Yeah.
and everything else. And I hope that we can come on and chat again soon.
Yeah. I'm in. Awesome. Well, appreciate you having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it again. And if you need to reach out to Jarryd, I have all his info and I'll also have it below in the comments. But I can definitely direct you to Jarryd. If you have any questions, reach out to me, DM me, or call or text me. But thanks again, Jarryd, and have a fabulous weekend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.